Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by DKI Canada. Across the street, across the country. He is a Canadian hockey legend. He's won Memorial Cups. He's won World Championships. And he's an amazing storyteller. Sherry Bassin. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Our guest today hails from Semans, Saskatchewan. He holds 3 degrees in pharmaceutical medicine, a Juris Doctor of Law degree. He's a former professor at Durham College. He was involved in the OHL for 36 years, a former head coach and GM of the Oshawa Generals and Sioux Greyhounds, a part owner of the Erie Otters. He won 5 OHL championships. He won the Memorial Cup. He won the World Junior Hockey Championship twice. He was assistant general manager for the Quebec Nordiques. He was a former hockey analyst, 2-time OHL and CHL Executive of the Year, soon to be an author. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Sherry Bassin. Sherry, great to have you here.
Oh, big dude. I mean, you and I have a history, and I'm proud to say that, too, that I still miss you from being every night watching you. So it's wonderful to be on with you.
Well, you know, I tell us about the new book that's in the works, because we had a brief chat about this a little while ago. The working title, I believe, is "Let Me Tell You a Story" by Sherry Bassin, from Wayne Gretzky to Connor McDavid, along with Roger Lajoie. Is that still the title we're going with?
Yes, they haven't. It's in the publisher's hands right now, and there's a lot of editing. It might be too many words. You would know me to be doing that sort of thing. and so it's going to go through a lot of editors, and that's one of the things. But I didn't realize these editors, these publishing companies, don't take a lot of So I'm honored that they took my book, and we'll see. But it's different stories. It's growing up in Saskatchewan, it's even though a lot of hockey, it's got a lot to do with, there's some stories there about my family growing up in Saskatchewan. They killed my grandfather in Russia. And my dad was the only male and 4 sisters and a mother, and he immigrated here, and then as soon as he had some money, brought his whole family over. And it's growing up with those small town values in Saskatchewan. Some of it talks a lot about the influence my parents had on me, but not a lot. There's stories, but it's not a hard read, Joe. It's not an I did this or I did that book. I don't believe in that. It's actually, you read some of those books, I did this and I did that. If you take the I did this and I did that, so the book can only be half as big. And I didn't want that. It recalls different stories, traded Lindros twice, was involved in that, lucky enough to win a Memorial Cup and then with the Quebec, and then they won a Stanley Cup and all different types of, World Juniors and, I think the people will find it interesting because they're just little stories about events and things that happen, and talks about some challenges and because they hadn't been in the medals, Joe, in 10 years, and we won the first gold medal they won, 1982 in Minneapolis, and then a couple of years later we won the first gold medal we won in Europe. But then there's, we beat the Russians had won 7 golds, and they were so dominant, and then we lost to the Russians in Hamilton in '86. So I got a silver there too. But so I know the agony of of defeat and the ecstasy of, and so the game's been good to me, and. You think of, well, there's still a number of players playing in the NHL. I go watch them play, and they still send me messages and stuff. I think they send messages to make sure I'm alive, but
Yeah.
they're very warm, and a lot of the different people, and a number of the teams in the NHL, Joe, have staff that played for me or worked for me, or so it's a vast. So a lot of different stories of different events, and there's some funny things in there, and that and I one time in Minneapolis when we won it, and we hadn't been in the medals, and Bob Strum and I were kind of co-managing, and I was assistant coach. We got them just before the final game. We got security to give us a gold medal, and those things are under lock and key. Strummer said to the security people, that was the height of the Cold War. He said, can we get one of those medals for a bit? Because you want those Russians to win, he said to them. This is in the States. They gave us a gold medal, and I brought that out in the room. And I asked them at the time, how many of you guys have been league champions? And how many guys have been provincial champions? And how many guys have been national champions? And how many guys in here have been world champions? None at that time. And I brought it out and said, this is what it looks like. Wouldn't let them touch it. It's in the book. I wouldn't let them touch it because you can't touch it till you own it. And but I went around the room and let them look, and their eyes were bigger than the medal. And ends up we winning it. And there's a cute story in there while we're talking. So we win it. And they didn't have the game in the main rink in Minneapolis. We were in Rochester because they had this Swedes playing the Russians. They thought that's who'd play for the goal. We were playing the Czechs. And after we won it, and, they didn't have the national anthem. So the guys lined up. It's a famous and sang the national.
That's where it started.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where it started, yeah.
Yeah, but you'd like your viewers would love so we're celebrating and we're doing all these things, and it's really funny. And by the time we get on our bus to go back to Minneapolis, we're walking out, and one of the rink rats, and that's not demeaning. Those are the guys that work there. It's a name. Zamboni driver. Yeah. I don't believe in demeaning people. Off his brown paper lunch bag, he'd written in a crayon type of thing. He gave me a piece of paper. As we're walking out of the rink, says to me, some guy by the name of Trudeau called you. Had no idea that was our prime minister. And this was like an hour and a half or an hour. So by the time we called back, they were gone. But he had no idea. Some guy by the name of Trudeau called you guys. Oh, yeah.
Well, Vic, I think we might have a couple of pictures of that 1982 team. I wanted to talk. We're going to get into that. And there you are, Sherry, on the far right. Yeah. And that's a great story about how you showed them the medal before the game to give them an inspiration. And you talked about how many people, have played for you over the years, are now in positions of positions of power throughout the NHL, and you had an effect on all of them, and you've had an incredible effect on the game in Canada. I mean, as you mentioned, this was the first team to ever win the gold medal, and not having the Canadian anthem on, because they weren't prepared. I mean, they weren't prepared for you guys to win the gold medal. They weren't prepared for anything. So the Canadian guys are singing the anthem. I mean, what a sight that was. What was special about that team in particular?
Well, I'll tell you what, we had good leadership. But more than that, we really came together. We got a little bit of a break because Minnesota didn't think they could sell all the games. So Manitoba bought a whole bunch of games. And because of the format, the round robin, because they'd done so poorly, we had to play the Finns, the Swedes, and the Russians right off the bat. and they were played in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a funny story. So, and we beat them, and the Russians, let alone lose, I don't think they'd been behind. And anyway, the whole theme of when I met with the team before, and the type of the team I'm going to go on and tell you about, the old Russian national anthem, it was an hour and a half. I mean, it was so long. Honest to God, you went on and on. So,
people grew beards through the thing.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like, you sang happy birthday to everybody after, because that's how long it took. So anyway, I got to tell you. So I went into the dressing room, and they play the national anthem after they win. I said, I don't want to hear that Russian national anthem again. I'm sick of that national anthem. It's so long. I don't want to hear it. I absolutely don't want to hear that Russian national anthem again. And we beat them 6-0, I think. And with 2 minutes to go, all the guys are high-fiving. With all the sports you covered, you would understand it. They're all high-fiving. And we ain't going to hear that. Their grammar teachers wouldn't have liked it. We ain't going to hear that Russian national anthem tonight. We ain't going to hear that Russian national anthem tonight. And there was a major crowd there from the Winnipeg, a lot of immigrants and stuff that suffered. A lot of them went through a lot of prejudice, years before. Place was jammed, lots of tears. And there's a quick story that nobody knows. This is in the book too. So this was on a Saturday, late Saturday afternoon. And we were then going to bus to Minneapolis and play the Americans on Sunday. And Bob Strum and we went to, was CHA Hockey Canada, and said, look, can't be bussing all night. We got to know we're in a real position. Well, we don't have a budget. Well, how much money do you have? So we went out to the airport to talk to the guys about a DC-3. Uh-huh. And we told them we only had so much money. And I said, this is Team Canada. And Bob Strum was a big part of it. And wouldn't you know it, they gave us the plane for that much money. Now you see these guys eating in bench. We had a boxed lunch with it, a sandwich, stuff like that. And we flew into Minneapolis. And so and at those days, guys were all excited, but they really trusted each other. And it's a really good question to ask. A lot of people have been asked me about that. But every shift, they didn't want to let their fellow players down. They weren't going to lose. And nobody expected it because of what was going on. And anyways, I still remember the last 18 seconds, Joe. Uh-huh. They remember it very well. Habshai took the face off, and we just needed a tie. And lost it. And Dudacek, that was a noted player, and they got 3 chances.
Yeah, Yuri Dudacek, sure.
Yeah, in 7 seconds. And we got a face-off, and I looked over at Dave Kane and said, put Troy Murray, who was a phenomenal leader, our captain. And he wasn't going to lose the face, even if he had to jump down and bite it. And he won it, and then the excitement that broke out, because there was no expectation, because we hadn't been in the medals in 10 years and so forth. But the last story, because you and I go back, and I have so much respect for you, and I'm not a patronizing guy, but when I told those guys, and the whole idea, when we were having our meetings in Canada, and they said, we haven't been in the medals, we got to try and win a medal. And my personality well enough, and I'm listening to all this with all the people, and I stood up. fairly descriptive language, not publishable. Said metal. That's the minimum standard. That's the very minimum standard. And what we want is, like, I'm not taking a month away from my family and everything else. Our goal is to win a gold medal. And I said, don't you be talking about winning a medal in front of these players. And turned out we won it. So,
you mentioned Mark Havshide and Troy Murray. Who are some of the other key members of that team? Who are some of the other key members?
There were guys, like Butcher was on defense. We had a phenomenal blue line. And so anyway, the real key thing is, it wasn't like, they didn't even look at themselves like being star-studded. Although there were all these good players. It's the way they played together, the way they hung out together. I used to eat, I never ate with the coaching staff or the administrator. When we had our lunches and dinners, we'd have tables of 5. I always ate with the players. And I'm going to be the odd bit sarcastic. And I would, I'd say things like, because I nicknamed, all my time in hockey, I nicknamed our wingers, when every team I was involved in, chairman of the boards. And I'd kid, and we'd be eating there, just having fun. I'd look over at a couple of players, one of these games when you win your one-on-one battles, we're going to really win big. They'd look at me, then they'd jump all over each other, I'd pin somebody out. And we'd say things like, I'd start things and guys didn't know it. Like we had fun, people might not like. I'd look over, say it's you, say one of the players, and I'd say, if I'm talking about whoever, and I'd say it's not his fault. And we'd already had it set up. And I'd say, not my fault, not my fault. Oh, don't worry about it, it's not your fault. And what do you mean it's not my fault? I'd say, no, it's not your fault, don't worry about it. We don't have to talk about it. And it's not your fault you're that ugly. and we wouldn't tell him that for hours. Like, what's he talking about? It's not my fault. And he'd think he was not back checking or something like that. I'd be just kidding. But we had a relationship that I told them, when you put your practice, when we're coming to practice, you're putting your working clothes on. You're going to work. That's something you love to do. And I've reminded my players of that all the time. You're going to work. And, but we had fun with each other, the right kind of fun. And boy, when we focused, they didn't pay any attention that we hadn't won and how good they were. But I'll tell you a quick little story. It's funny you ask. The Russians and Swedes, when you watch their practice with all their flow drills, oh my God, you'd get nervous about it. And and so you couldn't believe how they do those flow drills. They looked unbeatable. And I'm watching it, and so I looked at that and said, I don't want the players watching these guys practice. And they'd have practice days where we'd be on from 10 to 11 and one. So if the Russians or Swedes were practicing after us, I would go in the dressing room and say, the bus is leaving in 20 minutes. Be on it. And so so that's the deal that and because I didn't want that vision that these guys were unbeatable.
Right. Because they were pretty impressive in practice, and they hadn't seen that kind of flow movement before. So I get that.
Right. And they'd come down in those flow drills, 5 on the goalie, tic-tac-toe, how's your mama? with the puck and flying, and you'd like, oh, these guys are unbeatable. And so I didn't want them watching. And which brings me to the point I wanted to talk about, and I don't want to divert too much. I just watched them play in Minneapolis. And I don't like the way we play. And so the European teams play like we used to play 20 years ago. And we play right now like the Europeans played 20 years ago. They play with phenomenal grit. You know, I looked at this and said, hey, you know, we've won the gold 8 times out of the last 20 years. And
that's pretty good.
And we play, all these guys are taking private lessons, Joe, and all these different things. And they're highly skilled. But we don't play with the same grit we used to play with. And I'm bothered about that. So, you know.
How would we change that? How do you change that? How do you change that? How do you change that?
Well,
How do you change that?
We got to, like, you should see what the defense are going over with one hand on their stick to knock the puck out. When we were taught to go over and rub the, you know, I don't mean goofy. I'm talking about rub them out. And rubbing them out in a way that you're back in the play ahead of them. We're all going over. I call it ice fishing, where you push your stick out to knock the puck out. And people thought I was nuts. I'm sitting at the game. I said, these guys would be great ice fishermen because they know the technique. And that wasn't. And, you know, I've always liked the game, and that. I used to tell our chairman of the boards, win all your one-on-ones. And I always used to tell my guys, be the first one there and arrive in a bad mood. Okay? And I'm not talking about goofy hockey. And everybody talks about the Florida guys being dirty players. They're not dirty players. They just play hard. And that's a philosophy. That's a feeling. And those teams we had in the World Junior, they did. Like they did. You know, one of the stories, Wendell Clark was the first overall pick in the NHL as a defenseman. Yeah. And this is a story your viewers might like. This is in the book. And I go to watch him play for the Saskatoon Blades. You know all about that as a Westerner, myself. Had a partial view seat, because I didn't get. So I was running the Oshawa Generals then. We played Friday night. I jumped on a plane Saturday morning to go watch him play in Saskatoon Saturday night. And grew up 70 miles from my hometown. And I'm watching him play, and he's up the ice all the time. The only time he got a rest is when he fought one of their tough guys. Played about 30 minutes and got caught up the ice a few times. So we didn't have cell phones or anything after the game. And I called Terry Simpson, the head coach, and said, Simps, I think this guy'd be a heck of a left winger. And saying, you see, if you know Terry, you know, high character and really understands the game. So I kind of think you might have a point there. We don't say anything. Now we go to camp. This tells you what this kid going to be the first overall pick as a defense. And I say the second last day before we're going to Europe, we're having all the meeting with the CHA guys. And I say, I think Wendell Clark should go to left wing. And some hockey camp. No, we can't do that. What do you mean we can't do that? Well, then the NHL will never cooperate with us. Never cooperate. And I say, really? And they say they think that we should vote on it. I lose responsibility. So I said, I believe in democracy. You know me well. I believe in democracy. We're going to vote. Coach and I get 51% of the vote. The rest of you guys get 40%. Coach, what do you vote? He says left wing. I vote left wing. 51-49, he's going left wing. So anyway, Simpson says to me, you should go and visit with him. Ask him. I still remember this. I'll take this to my gravesite. I go to his room, comes out. His arms are bigger than my legs. Little farm boy and one parents, wonderful family.
Yeah.
Art from Kelvington, Saskatchewan. And he's got the farmer's underwear on with this. It's not like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I look at him and I say, hey, Clarkie, how do you feel about playing left wing on this team? And he looks at me and says, Mr. Bassin, I just want to play on the team. You decide. You decide. And I'm just taken aback by it. And I said, Clark, here's what I want to tell you. You're never going to see the blue line. Maybe on the second power play unit. Mr. Bassin, I told you I just want to play on the team. I can't get over it. Like nowadays, you'd have agents, the grandmother would be crying.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand. So I remember he was on the first floor and we had a suite on the ninth, and I go up and I'm so fired up about this, Joe. I said, this guy's a special guy. He's unbelievable. Yeah. And Simpson says, did you tell him to get a haircut? What? He says, and he picks up the phone, Joe. You would love this because you know about the word. And he calls Clarkie, and Clarkie comes up, and I still remember. I can tell you where I was sitting in the room. And Clarkie comes in, and he said, Mr. Bassin was very impressed with you. I expect that out of Saskatchewan guys. He said, tomorrow morning at 10:30, there'll be 2 buses. One taking Team Canada to the rink for the Team Canada picture. The other taking the players that didn't make the team to the airport to go home. If you've got a haircut, be on the Team Canada bus. I'm looking here. This guy's going to be first overall pick. Turns around, walked out, and I looked over at Simpson and said, I don't know if you've forgotten, but I'm the GM here. If he's on the wrong bus, you're taking that bus. We're getting a new coach. He said, don't worry, he'll be on the right bus. He scored the winning goal for us to win the gold medal. And he had a couple of players. You know how he liked to run into people and he had that snapshot and wrist shot he'd get off? He had a Russian all-star defenseman, I forget his name, behind the net. They didn't even bring out medical people. They just brought out a shovel to pick up the bones. He hit this hard. And it was clean, didn't get a penalty. But I'll tell you what, the Czechs, I'd never forget. He hit a Czech player in another game. And I thought that guy, and it was a good clean check coming up the boards. And he only missed a shift and stuff like that. And I've never forgotten that. And I always believe in the Czech grit.
Mr. Bassin,
Sherry,
can we go back 1 second? Sorry, Joe. About the Team Canada, how they're not playing good. There was a quote from Carlo Koliakovo, and Carlo said this about it starts at the minor level. Like kids are 10 to 16, they're not playing for a team, they're playing for themselves, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Is that part of the problem, you think, with hockey now?
I'll tell you exactly. That's a really good point that I want to make here, but the issue here is they're all taking private lessons. They're all skilled. They don't understand the grit, and you're 100%. I know guys, I heard a story. It's funny I want to talk about this. I'm glad this was brought up. A kid that had a sore wrist, and it wasn't like take him out of the game or anything. But his father gave him advice that maybe he shouldn't play because there'll be a lot of scouts and he can't play it. As opposed to, first of all, what the father didn't understand, that if I'm going to watch Joe Tilley play and they tell me he's playing with a bad wrist and I see him play, I got more respect for him than being out of the lineup. Now, I'm not telling you to play hurt, but I'm thinking this kind of advice, like where I grew up northern in Saskatchewan and stuff, and my family, my immigrant parents, you better go out there and give your best till you can't, that you've lost your breath. And that's funny you say that. I'm so disappointed on our grit and playing as a team. We play tic-tac-toe, lots of fancy plays. We don't go to the net. We don't, it's just amazing to me that, and I think Carlo played for me. I know Carlo very well. I'm going to have to call him because that's such a good point that's made here that individually and what can I get done? And, I remember coaching one time and I believe that the center icemen have to move the puck. And we were playing not a very good team. They wanted to get points. I sent the centerman out on a line, and I told the forwards, the wingers, they don't give you the puck, go offside. We went offside, and they were go offside. I said, because I want the lead man to have the puck all the time. No tic-tac-toe, and you better be fighting to be the lead man. And they were complaining, coming back to the bench, and the guys didn't say anything. Wasn't a pleasant scene. It wasn't between intermissions. It wasn't. I'd really love to see you guys pass the puck. I told them they wouldn't play center ice again on this team if they didn't go back to what we expected from them. Then we went out and scored 5 or 6 goals. And to me, that I believe if you want respect, show respect. If you want love, show love. But I also believe in responsibility. And nowadays, agents want their players traded, or, they. You look at the O'Reilly kid that just played in the World Junior in London. He played a Junior B to get ready his first year of eligibility in the junior, and came on as as a first round pick, and started as the 12th or 13th forward. Ended up playing in the top line by the tournament was over because he played the game the way the Hunters want you to play the game. And there's a reason. And to me, it's so wrong. I used to tell all the parents, funny, that's a great point to just bring up. I used to tell all the parents, and I'd meet with them all, and I would say, listen, here's the deal. A parent can't, if you want to coach the team, you can apply to coach. But you can't be the coach until your son graduates. So be a parent.
Right.
And I said, here's the deal. And I wouldn't let them sit behind it. I had all these different roles. And so one day, and I had really respectful. Nowadays it would be, I'd like to be called on the carpet and suspended. But I had a guy I just talked to, I still in contact with, 70 years old, played for me, who won an All-Ontario Midget Championship, which is a big deal in those days. And I was coaching the team. And he wasn't very big. And he could fly, and his nickname was Mouse. And another guy scored. I could introduce you to the whole team, and you wouldn't know their family names. And I can remember we're playing, and we have it's like a family relationship to this day. But I had an expectation. They had to be responsible players and not let their teammates down. And they understood it. And I was demanding about it, extremely demanding about it. Nowadays, we don't want to hurt their feelings. Listen, do we have 3 days to talk about all this stuff? Because a good friend of mine, it's funny we're talking about this. A good friend of mine, his grandson was playing soccer. And he's a young kid. And he said, I said, I'm going to go out and watch him. He's a good friend of mine. So I go and watch him. And he said, I said, what's the score? He said, we don't keep score. Everybody's a winner. Yeah, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a medal. Really? Oh, no, let's not disappoint them. I said, the happiest people here, because you know my personality, Joe, are the people who make the medals. Everybody, they're the happiest people here. they're not going to be disappointed in life. No, that'll never happen to them. And I'm so against. And that doesn't mean to be disrespectful or demeaning. But the things I said, I was known as the guy that hugged his players. I hugged my players a lot when they did it. But I believed in responsibility. And, good example. I'm watching the World Tournament. Usually when you score a goal at any time, there's momentum. We'd give a goal up again within a minute because we weren't responsible. And I don't mean dirty hockey. I mean gritty hockey. And the Czechs played with real grit and studied the video and took all that fancy plays away. You watch some of the stuff now and they pass the puck. There's nobody in front of the net. And it's tic-tac-toe. How's your mama? Okay. And, I don't want to go off here preaching, but it bugs the heck out of me. And I've been around a lot of championships and focusing on it. And it's no different than you, Joe, about trying to be as good as you can at what you do. And that's why everybody respected you when you were on national television. Because you were prepared, you had feeling, you spoke with feeling, and it's got nothing to do with being liked. It's got something to do with being respected. People would say to me, oh, this guy doesn't like you. I told him, line up and buy a ticket. I'm not interested in being liked. If you can be both, fine. But if you can only be one, be respected. When they liked me? When I was running the Generals or Sioux or whatever. In the Sioux, we went to 3 Memorial Cups 3 years in a row. But when they liked me? When we didn't have a very good team and they were beating us, they loved us. They could hardly wait for us to come to town. They wanted to hug us.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's, the issue is that for you, Joe, and I'm not a patronizing guy. I'll tell you to suck eggs in 2-4 time. But people respected you. I look forward to watching you. And there's a big difference than being liked.
Sherry, you talked about immigration. You talked about your grandfather being shot in Russia. And the year after you won the first gold medal, you guys were in Russia. And a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, Steve Siegel, who's a good friend with one of your nephews, he sent me a story, and I had probably seen it before, but it reminded me of the story that when the year you went to Russia, I understand you were responsible for some smuggling. Tell us about that.
Well, there's a real prejudice. This is in the 80s, and my parents are from, my mother was actually just born here when they got here, but they lived in the Ukraine, and they lived through a lot of prejudice. So, and my dad, we still had, and so we're going to Russia to play. We had players like Yzerman and Lemieux, and we had a few guys there that knew a little bit about the game. But anyway, I thought, because there's such a prejudice and there's only one synagogue and people went there under really threats. And so I went to my dad and I said, I think I'm going to take some prayer books and some prayer shawls. So I said, I think what I'm going to do is put a set in every hockey bag when they're loading it. They never check the hockey bags. So I went out and bought 30 bucks and 30 prayer shawls. And I had them distributed. Nobody really knew about this because there's implications. So what happens is we went to Finland to their Olympic base to train for a number of days. Then we went in by train. Remember, this was barbed wire fences and machine guns and towers when we came into Russia, Sarah. Not to prevent you and I from going in, to prevent their people from leaving. And we get to the border, and I'm sitting there, no phones, and I get a black bag with all the stuff in it. And they come in where I'm sitting, There's a senior police officer, 2 guys with rifles.
Yeah.
And said, wanted to check my bag. Opened the bag and they took out, I told the guys to bring lots of music and reading material. And I had Time magazines, Newsweek magazines. Took them all.
Yeah.
And want the people to see that. And so I took them all. They took them all. Anyway, we get through the border. We get to Leningrad. And so they confiscate our hockey equipment. And for in order, they got it, I don't know about confiscate. It's because I'll tell you the story. It's put away. And sure enough, I told the guys, we always used to complain about things going on. I said, look at guys, if we get delayed 2 hours, tell them it's no big deal. We thought it was going to be 5. We're not going to complain about the food. We're not going to have back pocket excuses about why we didn't win. So we're in the hotel. We're supposed to have 32 rooms. They only got 28. They have to make arrangements. They're going through all this stuff. And our equipment's at the railroad station. And one of their guys, because it's not like today in modern, comes to me and said, I need a lineup. So we don't have a, because they had to print, like this is 24th of December, they got to print programs.
Right.
So we don't have a lineup.
Right.
Yeah. So I say, we don't have a lineup, Joe. I told him we don't have a lineup. What do you mean? No, it's in with our equipment. One of my assistants says, I got a lineup. I said, yeah. Do you think dead people can give lineups? Because if you let them like that a lineup, you're going to be dead. Okay? Like he didn't understand.
Yeah. You didn't catch on. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they're all like, what do you mean? Anyway, we had to wake up the assistant mayor of Leningrad, and we went out there. One light bulb, gravel, no concrete floor. It was out of an Elliot Ness movie, which none of the young people would even read. And there was our equipment. And to get the part of the story out, so we get our equipment and all the trainers are there. We unload all the prayer shawls and the books, put them in a big box. I got them in my hotel room. And we had a host. And we always looked after our host. We had a phenomenal, anytime you go to those international tournaments, and I said, look, we got some stuff here I'd like to take to the synagogue. He said, Sherry, I can't do that. I'll get fired. I said, that's fine. Just get me a cab then. So we get in the cab and he talks to Russian, and the driver said, I'm not taking him there, but I'll drop him off a block away from the synagogue. So I got this big box, and you know how it is where you walk 10 yards and set it down.
Set it down? Walk 10 yards, set it down?
Old building, and the concrete steps were all, and I come up and I walked into the synagogue, and there are a lot of elderly people there, 4 to 6 people with a book. And they thought at first I was KGB.
All right.
And wanted to know. Then I gave Canada. And what it was, when I opened that book, that box, Joe, you should have seen excitement. You should have seen the jumping, and you had to see it. I mean, they were singing, and
beautiful. And
then they wanted to ask when we were done there, and they wanted to give me a special honor, and then they asked if I'd take questions, and some of them, a couple of people spoke a broken English, and some of them, and they'd ask a question, and I didn't want to tell them what it was like in Canada, because I didn't want them to say like, why me, I said, I didn't want to get in about all the things we took for granted then, were, they were just crazy because there's a story. It's in the book too, that to show you about nutrition, we had Coca-Cola sponsoring us and O. Henry chocolate bars. Nowadays they got, protein shakes.
Yeah.
So after the game, I'd bring out a can of Coke after out there, and there'd be 250 kids and stuff. And I'd look at the smallest kid and give him a can of Coke. But then when we pulled away, they'd beat up the kid, take his Coke.
Oh, jeez.
So I would wait and make them drink it. So we were at the circus, and there was a woman with 2 kids, just to show you. A woman with 2 kids in front of us, and I told the guys I'm sitting with, give those kids a Coke and give them an O. Henry chocolate bar. And they were so excited about it. And she went to the kiosk to get us some candy, and we wanted her to thank her and stuff. Some of the candy was so hard, but that's, And then she told us that the empty Coke cans at school the next day would be show and tell.
Wow.
A big empty cans. And nowadays, so you and I got lucky. We were born in Canada.
No doubt. No doubt. Back in 1987, the punch up at Piestany, the big event, things went sideways in that World Junior Championships. At this point, now you're working for CBC, and Canada and the host Russians, of course, got disqualified. The game was called in the second period with Canada leading 4-2. Canada was on its way to a medal, of course, probably gold. The Russians were out of it. But this is how you and Don Whitman summed it up at the time. Big roll that.
Finland captures the gold, and Sweden takes the bronze. I think one word pretty much sums it up: disgraceful.
Oh, disgraceful, disappointment. There was such great anticipation when we came to the rink. We listened to that earlier score. Canada had a shot at the gold, and being through it. And you and I have talked about it all week, and you and I were fired up. We had all kinds of notes and lots of preparation, and say we got to get the true story back. And then, hey, for this thing to be decided in a boardroom because of this incident on the ice, disgraceful, disappointment. Everybody's upset, and it too bad does not describe how everybody feels.
And this is an incident that is going to be talked about for a long, long time.
Well, we're still talking about it. What are your thoughts now when you look back at yourself as a young analyst and now? Yeah.
Well, something, Joe, I've always said, championships aren't decided in those days. They're smoked in a smoke-filled back room. You don't decide championships there. That was my issue, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, they turned the lights out to stop the fight.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I don't condone the fighting and stuff like that. But to kick teams out and stuff like that, there was ways that they could have handled it. And I've always felt this way, that you don't settle gold medals by sitting around a boardroom. You settle it on the ice, or whatever championship, if you're on the field, whatever. It was, to be honest with you, Joe, we've known each other a long time, but I was definitely at a loss for words. So that's
which is very rare.
That's a world event too.
Sherry, your foray into the OHL, I know, was helped immensely by our old friend Dave Branch, who we lost this week, and I want you to just share your thoughts on Dave and what what you're feeling now, right?
Well, I knew Dave when he was with the OHA. When I was coaching the Pickering Panthers, and we got in a big brouhaha, and he fined us $1,000, made us put up $1,000 good behavior bond, like $1,000 in 1970. That was like, $50,000. You know what I mean? And anyway, I got to know him very well, and then I became commissioner. And it was just for a term till we'd find a commissioner. And I got to know Dave, and I'm the one that recommended we should hire him. As a matter of fact, basically, he took this league, his integrity, what he was about. He took this league, he revolutionized the league. All the things that we introduced. I remember the first exhibition game he came to, and I was with him. And there was guys with different colored helmets from their original teams. The next day, he sent out a directive. Team must be uniform. You're representing the league. No holes in the socks. Things like that. That's just a minor little thing. And, like I said in a post, we all know people think we're irreplaceable. He may challenge that theory and he didn't, because him and I spent thousands of hours with this man, and at least well over the thousands, just individual lunches and breakfasts and stuff. And he was innovative. He's the guy where there were so many fights going on. And I was on the competitions committee. I was on a lot of the committees. And, we were the first to introduce protocol for concussions. He introduced the players first, and he didn't allow a special relationship to interfere with what he thought was best for the league. Did not allow it. And I can remember him, I was chairman of the board for many years. And which brings to it, I got to mention something else about that, but how the World Junior even started. But he never affected if my team or our team did something. One day he calls me, and you have to understand, I wrote the first contract with the NHL. We didn't have a contract. And he got the T-side when we hired him, and we met, and Mr. Ziegler and stuff said they were having their governor's meeting in Toronto in August, and David Branch took over August 1st. And as soon as he came in, when we met, he said, Sherry, we're bringing every junior owner across Canada in for this meeting. And we had it right across the hall. We had a handshake with the NHL. I wrote the first contract. And we walked the contract right across the hall because Mr. Lee Ziegler asked me when I met them in June, how long will it take you to put this on paper? And it was him that brought to talk about it, what do you think? And they were all fired up about it. We walked the contract across the hall to give to the NHL. He said, we got to have an impact here. When I talk to players, so I was telling you all this special relationship. The phone rings, I'm in my car. He said, what are you doing? He said, where are you? I said, I'm in my car. He said, I think you should pull over. I'm not pulling over. I said, he tells me this player gave them 15 games. They weren't swinging their sticks. They were cross-checking with their sticks and stuff like that. And they kept going on. And linesmen couldn't get in. And I said, did you say 15 games? He said, yes. We can't allow this. I don't know. Any questions? I don't have any bloody questions. Said, hung up. And he thought that, he couldn't allow that. That had to be a deterrent. That wasn't going to happen. Yeah. Didn't care whether I hired him or whether we had lunch. We likely had lunch 2 days before.
Right.
He really believed in the integrity of the league. He was part of we used to send teams instead of what we do now for Team Canada. Him and I were part of that initiation with Murray Costello. And he had me introduce it at the league. And the owners were against it. They didn't want to lose their stars for a month. And it got really heated. He was chairing them, and it went around the room. And I stood up, and because And I looked at this one owner and I said, if they asked your son to play for Team Canada, would you let him go? And death silence, and I packed my stuff and walked out. And Branch called me late after the meeting and stuff. And he said, good on you and stuff like that. And he totally quarterbacked it. That we have the National Junior Program today. I mean, innovative things that I could go on, if we could get together for a week, I could keep busy and telling you what, and he believed in that, and he believed in the integrity of the league and never let relationships get in the way of what was good for the league. And as I said earlier, and as I said in a post, we all think we're irreplaceable. We aren't. But he may challenge that theory.
Okay, so incredible loss. So integrity is the key word here for describing Dave Branch. You've had a lot of run-ins with Dave for sure over the years, and of course, one of the great things that was experienced with Dave was receiving the Memorial Cup from him, and the CHL. And tell us the difference between, or the similarities between, winning a Memorial Cup versus winning a World Junior Championship.
Well, it's funny. They're both different concepts. I had two other teams that went to Memorial Cup, but I left that year. And I left the year with the Oshawa Generals and the Erie Otters when I sold the team and stuff. And Branch still called me, said they were your teams. I said, no, it wasn't. He wanted me. But it's an interesting thing.
Well, you built them.
Yeah.
You built them.
It's, I'm not ego hunting here, but anyway, so, they talk about 8 teams. And winning it's such a grind, okay, all year long to win a Memorial Cup. And it's such a grind. And you win 4 rounds of best of 7s. And you're so emotional after that, and then have to go, like, the team that won it, we had a better team the year before. We outshot them 18-5 or 6 in the third period, lost the game. They scored with 14.6 seconds to go. Not that I remember. 5-4. And, but it's, you start the end of August, and you end the end of May. And you go through it, and you're looking ahead all the time. And how good are you going to be, and how good are these other teams? With the World Junior, it's a lot of preparation for a year, but then it's concentration for a month. And you've got to say, I don't care that you're a star for the Oshawa Generals, Sioux Greyhounds, Kamloops Blazers. You've got to commit them, as we've talked about earlier. That we're playing for the country here. So I don't want to hear anything about junior. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about what's going on. I don't want you to know. I used to tell everybody in the World Junior and my teams, are you playing for the guy beside you, or are you playing for yourself? And I used to tell them, you know what I want? I want you guys to win the gold medal of the Memorial Cup. I want you to experience it. It's not for me. Because that 1982 championship, I have a relation, even though it was only a month, I have a relationship with all those guys to this day. Like there's a feeling like to do it. And the Memorial Cup is a preparation where, for years, like I was always looked to see, we had Joe Tilley's get Sudbury Wolves. And how's Joe's team going to be 3 years from now? I'd want to know what's going on. I want to know his farm team. I want to know about his draft choices. Because, the one year that we got to draft McDavid, we could have ended up in 7th or 8th place, make the playoffs, get beat out 4 straight. I went to watch him play, drove me out of my skull. I couldn't believe it. I traded a 49-goal scorer, traded an all-star defenseman. Coaches said, you don't want to win. I said, no, if you can win with the young guys. And so But with the World Championships, you have a month of concentration to get the most out of those people, to understand what they're playing for, and they're playing for each other. You got lots of preparation for winning a Memorial Cup, and you can make changes. You can take a look at things. Sometimes they say trades are bad, but we'll have a couple of young kids on our team that aren't going to play much. We're going to give them an opportunity to play a lot to get this player. Can't do that to World Junior.
Right.
You got to get the out of what you got. But there's a feeling like, it's interesting you say, but my son came as a stick boy. And here we are. I'm from Semans, Saskatchewan, 33,000 feet. And I'm looking out the window with my son, young son at the time, 14, and thinking, Semans, Saskatchewan, town of 400. And I'm flying in this plane with a gold medal around my neck. And my son beside me. What a country. What an opportunity. Who would ever think? Growing up in Semans, Saskatchewan, that I'm proud of. My small town values, because when you grew up in a small town, you got in trouble. You had less trouble with the police than you did with the people in town because you let them down. And it's an amazing feeling. But the ecstasy of a whole, not just that year's work, for years of work to win a Memorial Cup or get there. And you have to change the emotion, Joe. You just won the OHL Championship, and you have to change the emotion of the concentration of what you want to get done. And it's one game and you're out. There's no best of sevens. So you only got a short time to get your players to refocus.
You've had Wayne Gretzky on your team. You've traded Eric Lindros twice. You've had Connor McDavid. Tell us about these players and similarities, differences, and your experience with them.
Wow. Eric Lindros was like a runaway train on the ice. I mean, he was a big guy. When I traded him, when we played them in the final, there's a couple of stories that your viewers would like. That we then beat them out to win 2 years later to win the Ontario Hockey League Championship, and the people in the Sioux were very upset, and should have seen the security that we needed when we were playing them in the finals in the Sioux, plainclothes policemen and stuff. And people were very upset that he wouldn't come. Hey, they had reasons. They wanted him closer by and stuff. I told them we traded. I wasn't there when they drafted him, but I told them, hey, the key word is fair equity. We'll trade him if we can get fair equity. And talking about Dave Branch, there's a real key story here, because you couldn't trade your first-round picks. But I take over the Sioux and see what's going on, and I'm after the exhibition, after the training camp, and I say to them, I have a meeting with all my scouts. I said, "What do you think if I trade Lindros?" And they said, "Well, you can't trade Lindros." I said, "That's not the question. What do you think?" And I said, "So we have to know every team and stuff." He said, and the chief scout looked over and said, "He's going to trade Lindros." He said, see, what happened was in those days, if I drafted Joe Tilley from Peterborough, and he's playing for Peterborough's Junior B, and they got injuries, they could call me and said, "Do you mind if we dress Joe Tilley tonight?" I said, "No problem. We're happy about it."
Yeah.
And it had been done. There's precedent. So you can't trade your first round pick. And I wrote the Constitution originally. So I'm sitting there saying, I'm going to trade him to a team put them on their farm team. And in return for which and because of which I want this, and this, they can call them up, play them for the year. So I go to Dave Branch. And I said, David, there's precedent. Let me show you where it's been done. Said, I'm going to let him play. I'm going to tell him to play on this junior B team. I'm going to give the team permission to call him up. But I want these players, and I want this, and I want that, and these draft choices. And Dave Branch, Joe looked me straight in the eye. And he said, we're not doing it that way. We're doing it up front. And he passed the Lindros rule. We weren't going to do it through the door. That's the integrity of it. So I had everybody send in an offer. And I negotiated with the top 5 or 6. And I knew the players on Oshawa. I just left Oshawa. I knew their draft.
Yeah.
Like young players. And everybody said, nobody said, oh, you're not going to trade them there after you've had all that 6-9. And I knew the staff there. And so I met with them, and I met with all the people. We almost traded him to Belleville, but I wanted a goalie. I didn't want to have to go to the draft to get a young goalie if we were putting a team together. And what happened was that's what ended up, and we got all those players, and then we beat him out. It was an interesting story, and it wasn't him. I had deep respect for that guy and what he was. He was a truck that could play the game. Yeah. And but after we beat them out in the Sioux, think about this, Joe. All of a sudden, this guy climbs up the wall after this big excitement that we won the OHL. And he unfurls. He had to do this. And he couldn't put this sign up, Joe, if we didn't win. And it's professionally done. And it says, you can go home now, Eric. This is a hockey town. And the crowd went bananas. And because, they hurt their pride that he wouldn't come there, but that's fine. And then in the NHL, they brought me in because I quarterbacked that trade. And I quarterbacked the trade in the NHL. And my sarcasm, you know me for a long time. And then won a Stanley Cup with that trade. Won a Memorial Cup and Junior Stanley Cup a couple of years later with that. That trade was a big part of it, plus other trades. And I'm walking out the door one day. I still remember I had a suit coat on my left shoulder and some press there. And they said, Sherry, do you realize that when you traded him in junior, you won the Memorial Cup and traded him in the NHL and won a Stanley Cup? And so I said, we should find more teams to trade him to then. And that wasn't a very well accepted comment because you know how the press was. And but he was. Yeah. He was a special player, and and I have deep respect for him. And what can you say about Gretzky? Like, what can you say? I mean, that. And the only reason we didn't draft him, I'm driving the car. I remember this. You drove that 401 all the time. Kennedy and 401. There was a hotel there. Just come out of a meeting. Get the radio on.
Sheraton, I think it's called.
I think you're right. And I'm in the car, and they're all talking. I think Gretzky had a press conference. I'm not sure, but he's only going to play 1 year at junior and go to the WHA. Oh, yeah! I almost drove into the concrete barrier. So I get back, and I remember this distinctly because I have a policy with myself, and I can just tell you I don't want to. But I've never had a drink in a rink. Never had a drink in a rink because I made my living there. Never at any time, and didn't believe in it and so forth. It was my own thing. I might make a comment whether it's good or bad. And I remember I had a drink with these people because we did a new contract with Pepsi and stuff. So I didn't go to the rink. It was 1 or 2 in the afternoon. I went home. And I called John Humphreys. And I said, and when I took over the Oshawa Generals, John Humphreys, the owner, said to me, what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to own. I want you to be the best owner. Coaches coach, players play, managers manage. Scout, scout. Owners own. So I called him, said, we hadn't made this plan. What do you think if we don't draft Gretzky? He said, you told me to own. You're the hockey guy. Joe, you think that happened today?
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding? Chicken Little would have pulled the string and the sky would have fallen. And so anyway, nobody said this, and we hadn't made up our mind. Then we decided, no, that we're going to draft Tom McCarthy because he was going to be gone in a year. And we had the draft. The rink was packed. And here I'm this new young general manager. And I step to the microphone and say, the Oshawa Generals are proud to select from the North York Rangers, Tom McCarthy. All the press are there. There's a lull in the crowd.
What?
And there's a good thing, Joe, there was gun control because they wanted to shoot me. Okay. And here's an interesting story for you, your viewers. Listen to this. So we don't draft him. The Oshawa Times does an editorial on the front page about depriving them of this opportunity after having a lousy year. People were in the phone, phone in talk shows at night. My wife was all upset. People were saying, if I see Bassin on the street, I'm going to beat him up. And my wife's saying, what about the kids at school and stuff like that? I said, don't listen to the radio channel. Not get involved in all this sort of stuff. And anyway, here's the interesting story for that, your viewers. Our opening game is in the Sioux for the schedule. We get beat 6-1. Gretzky gets 3 goals and 3 assists. Opening game, Joe. And I always said, don't be just there available when times are good. Got to be available, and they're waving at me to come on radio. Remember, I had to climb this ladder and stuff. And the very first question I get asked, what did you think of Gretzky's game? What do you think? And we just lost 6-1. And he got 3 goals, 3 assists, and he says to me, what did you think of Gretzky's game? And I say, I'd have really been impressed if he got 7 points tonight. And they look at me like, he couldn't even 6 goals. Oh, thanks very much. That wasn't very good math. And they, my sarcasm. But we play them 2 weeks later. The rink is packed. 4 deep standing. 4 deep standing. And we got a 4-3 lead. And McCarthy got a hat trick. And I'm thinking, and Gretzky's parked in the office behind the net and sets up the tying goal with 30-some seconds to go in the game. And our rink at that time held 4,000 or 4,200. If it was 4,000, 3,900 turned and pointed at me. He said, and the next year he left, and a few years later we went to a Memorial Cup, but people didn't like me. But then to go on to this guy, McDavid, looks like he's going to be a player too if you watch hard enough. So anyway,
he's okay.
My called me, said you got to go, and I had a dog named Newman. And my dog went everywhere with me. I had dogs before that all the time. They went to hockey games. Everybody knew him in hockey. And so we go to watch McDavid in October. And I never sit with staff or anything because I don't want group think. But I'm watching the game, and they flood after 2 periods, Joe, in minor hockey. So I go walk up to my staff, and the first thing they say, "What do you think?" What do I think? I said, my dog Newman pulled on the leash after 2 shifts and said, "We've seen enough. Let's go. It's cold in here." So I tell everybody, Joe, I didn't draft McDavid. Newman did. Newman drafted me. So that's how obvious it was, Yeah. And the way he plays, he's a special kid. I still think of him as a kid. He plays hard, goes between the man and the boards. Like, what can you say? So, when you think of the Gretzky thing and you think of McDavid, Gretzky was part of me starting my career right close to it. And then finishing with, those are 2 pretty good bookends on a book.
Yeah, and a lot of good stuff in between.
Yeah. So,
and talk about Connor a little bit as a person, though. What he means to you as a person.
I do this. I've had I've had hips replaced and shoulders replaced. It's the only new stuff in my body, and so I do a charity golf tournament every summer, and all the money goes to research and education for orthopedics. And all these NHL guys that come in, and we've raised over $1.5 million. And this year we're doing a big banquet instead in New York, and we raised over $1.5 million for research and education. He never missed. Joe. He was so loyal to me, and he still sends me notes about, ends it with "love ya." And a lot of the guys do, but I mean, and I don't like to bug him, I'm an old guy and he doesn't want to be, so I don't contact him as often as I used to because, he's got so much to do and
he's
stuff
kind of
like
busy.
that. There's, time that, but there's a difference between loving to play and love the game. I look for that when I watch a player, Joe. Does he love the game or does he just love to play? He loves the game. He had an interesting comment a week or so ago, this condensed schedule. You got to be tired. What do you mean? I love it. I want to be on the ice all the time. I mean, these guys, all these stars are like that. And he's like he'll ask me out and he'll send a note, once, hoping that my wife was walking across the road a few years ago at the Y and got hit by a car and stuff. And was in the hospital a long time and stuff. But he'll ask about her. Like, he had the right upbringing. He's got really good values. And it's a pleasure to be, those guys, they don't treat me like I'm going to be 87. They treat me like, that although when I'm curly, don't you tell anybody, Joe. There's times I feel like I'm 87. I'm up there. These
2
guys
hips, 2 shoulders, but you're like the bionic man now. It's like,
I've had 6, because when I had a bad skiing accident in the 80s, and then I had to have them redone after those days, after 18 years now. It's all new technology and stuff. So, but both shoulders and stuff like that, and that I could be a better weatherman than you had on TV when you were working. Not to demean you,
Dave Duvall.
people. Yeah, really good guy. I loved him. But I could predict with my arthritis in my hips and my shoulders, I can tell you what's going on ahead of time. I'll work for.
Humidity is high.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. So that, but I mean, what's big for me at my age and stuff is it's not just it's the relationship I have with a lot of those players. Somebody I don't even know how they keep track, but they tell me all the players that played for me that went to the NHL and stuff. I don't know. I don't even know how they get the numbers, but
hundreds.
Yeah, that's what they said. So,
yeah.
But I mean, it's, I still loved it. As a matter of fact, when I go watch the games play now, and I watch them as people, if I don't like some of their human, especially if they show negative emotion, I was really against that. The team. Don't show your weakness to the other team and stuff. So I go and watch them because it's people that win championships. People win championships. You got to have ability and skill. And there's a big difference, Joe, a big difference, which is almost goes back to the World Junior concept. And what you've asked about building teams, that's a big thing, that question. There's a big difference between assembling talent and assembling a team. If you're going to have winning teams, you have to have these Hymans and these guys. And so, big difference. People don't realize that, that they, and if you're just, it depends where you're playing the game. If you're playing it on Lake Ontario, can have a lot of this fancy, but when you're playing in a contained area, so I always remind my people, we're assembling a team here. We're not assembling talent.
Sorry, one final question. Thank you for this time. This is awesome. We're partnered with a group here called Believe Become Be You. It's a mentorship program for kids that are 10 to 17, inspired by the late Sean Gindy and led by Papa Jack Gindy. What's the message you would have for any kids who might be struggling to find their way in this world today?
Well, that's funny because I really believe in what these people do then. I tell them it's just as easy to learn good habits as bad habits. So, and the real idea, and if you want respect, show respect. If you want love, show love. I look at Daisy and I see young people running ahead and jumping in front of people, not holding the door. It's just little things like that for people. I hold doors all the time at my age and think, and the people will say thank you and the people that don't. But it's just as easy to learn good habits as bad habits. And if you want to be respected, to show respect. If you want love, show love. And when you understand that as you grow, there's a sense of pride in yourself. A sense of pride to be as good as you can be. And I've always talked about that all the time. That, and don't follow the crowd. If you follow the crowd, you only get as far as the crowd. Now, there's times to stand up and say, if people are making a bad decision, you've earned some respect if you didn't follow the crowd. It's pretty important. And when you earn respect, it's different than demanding respect. When you demand respect, as soon as you turn your back, it's not there. When you earn respect, it's always there. And I talk about love more than hate, because I find it easy to love. Like, I love being on this show.
Well, Sherry, you talk about respect, man, and we have a lot of respect for you. And you've done it your way, no doubt about it, and followed your gut and gone against the grain many times, but it's worked out exceptionally well. And we want to thank you for taking the time to be here on the show. It's been awesome, as I knew it would be.
My pleasure. You know what I say? I like being around good people. You qualify, Joe.
Thank you, sir. That is a great compliment coming from you. All right. When we come back, Jimmy Devellano talks about building that New York Islanders dynasty. Back after this.
In 1992, the best locally owned restoration companies came together with one goal: to make disaster recovery better for Canadians. And to this day, DKI remains one of the only 100% Canadian-owned disaster restoration groups in the market. Fire, flood, or storm damage. When things go wrong, the right help makes all the difference. With the right tools and local expertise, we handle everything from emergency response to full-scale restoration, getting homes and businesses back on track the right way. Because a home is more than four walls, a business is more than a building, and recovery is about more than repairs. When you choose DKI, you're choosing a company that's put Canada first since 1992. Locally owned, nationally backed, Canadian through and through. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center. Saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Hearing loss doesn't have to mean missing out. At Hear Canada, we help you take charge with a complimentary hearing assessment because confidence starts with clarity. Discover hearing aids, accessories, and expert care at your local hearing center. Not sure where to start? Our Hearing Health Guide has the basics for you or a loved one. It worked for us. Book your free assessment today at hearcanada.com. Conditions may apply.
But I want to talk about the draft that you had with the Islanders. So how's this? Okay, so you had the really bad first year, and as a result of that, 30 points in that first year, you get to draft a guy named Dennis Potvin. Worked out pretty good, right? Then you got, he wins the Calder Trophy. Then Brian Trottier, he wins the Calder Trophy. Mike Bossy wins the Calder Trophy. Now, these are three guys, one's from Ontario, one's from the Western League, and one's from the Quebec League. Obviously, you and the scouts were doing a fantastic job scouting these guys out, picking these guys in the first round, and look what happened to them all.
Well, you're right. It's very unusual to have three Calder Trophy winners in what, a 7 or 8 year period, quite frankly. Now, to be very fair, Dennis Potvin was a no-brainer. We finished dead last in our expansion year, and he was a consensus #1. So a little hard to take any credit, but boy, he turned out to be a franchise player for sure, and really got the Islanders up and running. Trottier and Bossy were a lot different. Trottier was taken in the second round. Now, the reason he was taken in the second round was because at the time we were drafting, it was a 20-year-old draft. The World Hockey Association came in 1974, and they started to poach 18-year-olds, 7 or 8 of the very best 18-year-olds. So they got in ahead of the NHL. And so because of that, the NHL reacted quickly, and in 1974 said, all right, in order to counteract the WHA, we'll allow you to take one 18-year-old in the first or second round. So we had the 4th pick in 1974, and the first round guy just passed away very sadly a couple of weeks ago, Clark Gillies from the Regina Pats. And he was pretty much a consensus high draft pick. So again, I would be remiss in taking a lot of credit at 4th overall. Gillies, I think most people would have taken him there. But we had a bird dog out west in Swift Current, and he kept talking to me all year about this young 18-year-old kid, young Indian kid, playing for Swift Current with 2 years of junior to go, but what his potential was, what his upside was, and his name was Brian Trottier. So we took a chance. We took Brian Trottier in the second round. And, you know, Joe, if you think about getting a Potvin and then the next year you get a Clark Gillies and you get a Brian Trottier, and our bird dog in Swift Current was bang on about Trottier. A little bit of a gamble at that point in time. But boy, oh boy, here we are 3 years into the league, and we've gone from last place to becoming a pretty good playoff team, not a Stanley Cup team, but a pretty good team. So that was a heck of a haul for us.
Discover the secret to timeless vitality at Renew Medical Center in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Our specialists unravel the science of aging, tailoring plans to defy its effects. Experience cutting-edge regenerative therapies such as stem cells and exosomes, addressing aging at its core.
It's a wonderful spot, and I highly recommend it for whatever you may need, whether you just want to feel better, you want to look better, have basically a quality of life, just to ramp it up a little bit as we age.
Liberate yourself from aging-related concerns, where accountability, technology, and passion for regenerative medicine converge. Begin your path to peak health and wellness with us. Schedule your appointment today at renewpv.com and elevate your quality of life.
Parents, what's the biggest fear for kids 10 to 14? A future they think they can't handle. At Believe, Become, Be You, we know confidence in the future is a habit we can build. Our course doesn't just prepare kids for the future, it seeds them with skills they will use now. For a limited time, the I Believe in Me Foundation is offering the first 1,000 kids and their parents 1 year free access. This priceless opportunity will save you over $2,000. This isn't just a course. It's a journey in developing life-enhancing skills that will grow with your child, fostering gritty minds, creative futures, and better bonds. Get signed up now at BelieveBecomeBeYou.com. That's BelieveBecomeBeYou.com.
And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, watch our former shows on YouTube. All of our great past shows are on there. Shorts, like and subscribe. It's absolutely free. Our socials, at Joe Swiss Tilley on Instagram and Threads. We are not on X. And Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show on Facebook. Thanks once again to Sherry Bassin for joining us. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. And let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Joe Tilley here. My wife Penny Claire and I recently took an amazing trip to Egypt and Jordan with Trip Op Hope. And here are our top 10 must-dos. Last but not least, we relaxed at a luxury resort and took a dip in the famous Dead Sea. This beautiful resort was a perfect way to cap off our incredible adventure in Egypt and Jordan. After days of exploring ancient ruins and bustling markets, it was wonderful to just kick back, put on a little mud, and soak up the sun by the Dead Sea. Oh, I almost forgot to mention the amazing cuisine in Egypt and Jordan. Don't forget to try the delicious local food like mouth-watering Egyptian barbecue. And the best part is that our Trip Oppo tour includes almost all of the meals, so you can indulge in the local cuisine without worrying about opening your wallet. I would highly recommend that you book your next trip through Trip Oppo. Call them today. Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit sleepyhollowcountryclub.com.